scenario we run with any first ban by either team, seems like White ends up coming out ahead.
In this first ban coming out, we saw Bjergsen playing it very well in the group stages. Wasn't a main throughout the season, but that Orianna was definitely putting down some numbers.
Yes, and this right here is hitting a comfort pick, and Orianna always comes around doing World Championship because she's such a safe pick. She's strong all around, like all through the entire game, and that's why it's such a safe pick for Bjergsen, and that's also why you can ban it away.
Yeah, but when you think of Bjergsen, you don't typically think of Orianna.
Right.
When we looked at the group stage stats, it's actually the champion he found substantially the most success on. 7-2 and 21 in 2 games was his overall scoreline. However, Syndra, we think, is one of his more prominent champions if they want to find success.
Basically, TSM is going to need some mid-game power here if they want to be able to beat Samsung White. Take a lead in the early game, go into the mid-game, be stronger, and close out the game before White gets a chance, because the late game for TSM in the past, with the shot calling, has been a problem which White can punish them for.
Yeah, I also thought Rise was going to be a huge priority coming into this one, which is why it's very wise of White to first pick it away. But what they were able to accomplish, I feel like, is they didn't give away any major picks by first picking it, which is something I felt like TSM would have to force in Champ Select to have a better chance.
And that's going to be a big story in this game here, especially looking at the junglers. What are we going to see banned? What are we going to see first pick by either Dandy or Amazing? Lee Sin was banned. It's by far Amazing's best champion. He played it 5 times in group stage out of 6 games. And suddenly, Car6 is open for him, sure, but Dandy can still play Jarv, and he can still play Rengar as his pick he didn't show yet.
Let us not forget how good Dandy's Rengar
it's the best in the world.
Is, in conjunction with his lanes, who are able to keep them pushed to just the right level so that the Rengar ganks are always a threat. And he just goes Elise anyway.
It is completely a synergy that they have, but they do go for Elise. Seeing that was only one of 2 that Amazing was also picking up with his Lee Sin. This is going to be his first Kha'Zix game coming in here on the world stage. We'll see how he performs on that. And Mata gets his Thresh to be making the plays in that bot lane, which is definitely another focus of this game.
And I really hope Wild Turtle is going to play something like a Lucian in this game here. Maybe a Corki pick for him. I need some mid-game power spike AD carries for TSM to focus the bottom lane, try and shut down Imp and Mata in the laning phase. You have ganks, you can have roams, you have teleport from top lane. Get a lead on your AD carry, use it in the mid-game.
And that will be a huge key for TSM if they could try and get that mid-game. However, I look at the composition that Samsung White is putting together so far, and it seems like they have all the utility picks covered right now. You look at the Thresh and Elise, they can play both ways, front line or back line. If they get a slight lead, they would be able to adapt to any situation TSM tries to throw at them.
TSM is really falling back to a comp which we have seen from them a lot of times already, but where they normally run a hyper carry with it. You have Lulu top lane, you have Janna as the support, you have a lot of disengage, and it's all built around your AD carry now in the late game. And that's actually where Lucian might become a problem, because he does the kill it,
and he
it is finally the Jace.
All right, a little bit of backstory here. Jace is something that so many mid laners have talked about breaking out forever. They just never seem to have the right moment for it. Pawn, however, is one of the best Jaces who's actually brought it out in some big-time games.
And Pawn has played a different champion now in every game of Worlds that he has played, still continuing with Jace.
It just shows how Samsung White in the group stages didn't want to show anything other than, hey, we have a massive champion pool. We can win on all these different champions. We know he's Jace from Korea, in OG. He's been killing Faker one-on-one with this Jace pick as well. He is extremely good at playing it. And Samsung White, notice how much single target CC they have to set up the burst damage from a Jace and a Twitch. Thresh with Hook coming in, you have Cocoon coming in, you have the Rune Prism from Ryze. Samsung White can catch out TSM so easily and just burst down a target within a few seconds with both Twitch and Jace here.
Yeah, and obviously we see the Zed coming out from Bjergsen. When he has played Zed so far, it hasn't worked out that well. However, that was when he picked it blind. So he did not know the matchup he was going into. This matchup against Jace, in fact, a lot of the lanes for TSM have the potential to win early, which was actually going to be one of the few win conditions TSM would have, is if they could somehow crush the laning phase hard enough that Samsung White could never make it into team fights. With the pick of Twitch for Samsung White, that's a very surprising one, because it does put them slightly vulnerable in lane.
So obviously Twitch is one of IM's main champions, and again, what Samsung White will normally do when they play Twitch is actually lane swap, and because you have the Ryze against Lulu matchup as well, I would expect White to lane swap here, because you don't want to have Lulu against Ryze. It's heavily in favor of Lulu early on. Ryze will outscale her, Go for the lane swap here, save lane for Twitch, and then once Imp picks up his blade, he can start roaming around.
And what do we see about our featured matchup now? Jace versus Zed, not something we normally see in the mid lane.
Yeah, I actually feel like that matchup, especially early on, and at level 6 mostly, would favor Bjergsen a little bit, but obviously it kind of comes down to Dandy and Amazing. We know how good Dandy is at working with Pawn's lane.
And we were talking a little bit about Amazing. Will he try to focus something, or will he just trying to be dodging Dandy as he flies through the jungle? As we kick off game 1, we do want to remind everyone to go the distance with us over on Twitter. Keep sending in those votes for the team you think will come out on top. Tweet hashtag SSW win or hashtag TSM win, and we'll be checking back periodically to see where the fan vote is standing.
And I really want to see how TSM wants to play this game here in the early game. Are we going to see a lot of focus on helping Wild Turtle do well, or will they instead look on to see just try and win every single lane by themselves?
Well, yeah, and how White's lanes are going to play in general here. Listen to that crowd, though.
Going to be a ridiculously hard task. We've actually already heard the TSM chants coming out, almost drowning us out during the pregame there. But this is a Korean team on home soil. TSM yet to beat that. And they are ready to go. In a best of 5, let alone. They have to go the long haul, something that Korean teams practice in regularly.
And this matchup in mid lane, we just quickly talked about it before.
Yeah.
Due to the fact that Pawn actually decided to get Exhaust as his summon as well, it's going to make it very hard for Bjergsen to all in him, and that's heavily in favor of the Jace pick because you can poke from range so much.
Yeah, it also makes team fighting really difficult for Bjergsen in the late game. Sometimes you can bait out one exhaust in a team fight again. Getting rid of 2 of them is a wee bit harder there. And it will really, really mean that TSM has to pull ahead in the early game.
Yeah, and just a small little funny thing about the mid lane, because Zed now appears behind his target on Jace, Jace can actually knock him away like he used to be able to and can't deny him a lot of the damage. Instead, though, Bjergsen should be able to get the damage here. As long as Dandy isn't there, he should be fine.
Well, the early game here is going to start off quite quiet. Nobody really wants to get themselves into too much danger, but that doesn't mean they're going to not go for the late invade on this one. We can see that Dyrus and Amazing are kind of the buddy system up by Wraiths, and that bottom half covered by Pawn.
It's actually pretty impressive where Samsung White have gotten their wards as of now. Some pretty deep positions, and that's somewhat required for trying to force an early lane swap.
Yep, they are going to try and get into this one a little sneaky style, but we'll see if they can actually grab all of these. See if Amazing is put off and they can get a 3-buff start here.
Yeah, so what TSM is doing, even though they probably know Samsung White wants to lane swap top, you don't want to give up the bottom lane advantage, so you want to send your stronger bottom lane down there. You have the Dragon. Problem is, they
TSM
didn't go in and try and check the red buff, even though they should have expected this lane swap.
They got 3-buffed.
Yeah,
super hard. It should never happen in this situation, just based on the fact that there's Twitch. You have to expect the Twitch top lane, you have to expect the invade, and if TSM needs to start on a buff, they need to start on the red buff of Samsung White, which they did not do.
And the thing is, you could actually see they knew, because they started running in there like, oh, we're actually too late now. So they knew they had to go there, just didn't react in time. Small advantage for White here.
And the pressure is on. The minions falling in front of Bjergsen, getting hardly any of those first waves, 9-6. He should be all right as he tries to go toe-to-toe with Pawn in the mid lane. Does not want to go down solo, and that is definitely an option for Pawn to get at with that exhaust on him. We'll see what they can keep doing. Dyrus is going to try to be with Amazing on the bottom side of the jungle. See if they can keep themselves safe here.
Yeah, I honestly feel like TSM's already on the back foot a little bit.
Yep.
You can tell Dyrus and Amazing are looking for things to do in a jungle that's really already been cleared, and unless they're willing to fast push that turret, they're just giving easy farm to him. They have no pressure on that side of the map.
No, but what they're basically doing is just stay down here in case Looper shows up in the bottom lane, and then they can dive in 4 people. Even if Mata joins, it's going to be 4 versus 2 in favor of TSM. So you see both 80 carries. They're not freezing the lanes. You don't really do that as often anymore. It's a lot more focus on pushing in to the tower. Make sure you deny farm and experience from the enemy top laner. And if he shows up, you're on the bottom side of the map to dive him. Notice how they're already pinging on Looper.
Here's the strangest thing, though. I see Imp wasn't even freezing that top lane. He's already pushed up the turret. In normal circumstances, that's actually cue for the TSM top laner to go up there and get the experience at the turret. That Dyrus is still level 1, and he's recalling on some of the spectacular wards from Samsung White.
Yeah, so the reason Dyrus actually didn't go top lane was because he didn't know if Samsung White had 4 members on the top side. He was waiting to see their reaction. As soon as he spotted Looper bottom lane, he now knows he can actually get to top lane.
Mata with the grab onto Lustboy. He's going to be forced to walk back through the aggression, but Turtle is there to provide some safety. The mismatches and missed moves here by Team SoloMid, like you said, Jet, definitely put him behind. There's a lot of game to go as the gold is still even.
It's ridiculous right now what has happened. Look at the top lane discrepancy. Dyrus has 0 CS. Looper's finished his tier. That is not even close. The fact that Looper was able to get his tier during the lane swap before Dyrus gets a CS is really one-sided.
TSM had all the members on the bottom side hoping to get a dive on Samsung White if Looper showed up, but because Mata joined, because Dandy was nearby, they couldn't do it. And suddenly, the risk they took, it backfired completely, and now Dyrus has lost a lot of farm in the top lane.
And this is one of the things that is a big struggle for TSM, especially in the lane swaps, would be the team-wide communication. It's not a weakness that has really shown its ugly head lately, but it's something that used to be a big deal for TSM. Dyrus needs to be able to fend for himself, and the team needs to be able to fend for Dyrus, which has not happened early on in this match.
And that weakness is something that Samsung White latches onto. The quickest games in their group, it's because they don't play with their food. They go for seconds, they go for thirds. Yeah, arguably the weakest group, but they made the #1 Chinese team look pretty average throughout that group as well, so they know what they're doing.
I mean, just looking back to when they're playing Korea, I mean, they're the team who has the highest amount of kills in their wins compared to everyone else, because once they get the lead, they are so good at just snowballing it completely and never give you a chance to come back. Dyrus has the flash.
Yeah, and you can bet your bottom dollar that Dandy will be back to that lane, and they're going to continue to keep Dyrus down. They've exposed an early vulnerability right here, and expect some substantial punishment towards Dyrus.
One of the things we also see is Samsung White does have some of the least wards placed, but that's because they get them so deep in. They're so efficiently placed. Yeah, it might be the shortest games, but they just crush down in the most efficient spots, so you don't have to actually put down as many in that early game.
I mean, look at the wards they have now. They've already covered the side of the map with which they want to attack.
Right.
That's actually something that White did a little bit in the group stage that probably we won't see here in the quarterfinals, is they made some moves in places where they did not have vision because they were playing a little bit fast and loose. They're going to clean up their game for this match against TSM, most likely.
Yeah, normally when we see them play, they pre-plan their moves a lot, so now they have the deep wards here. They can go for the red buff when it spawns soon. Just keep trading with Dyrus here. The important part for Dyrus, however, is the fact he's getting experience in this top lane.
The thing that TSM has to remember is there's really nothing to lose when these fights start to break out. They gotta try their hardest to make it happen. See if that can really come from something in the top lane. We know that Looper can make the plays individually. Can Dyrus get on that teleport level as well?
Yeah, well, the short answer is probably not,
right,
as far as Dyrus being able to match Looper's teleport. But the long answer is that the longer this period of inactivity lasts for Samsung White, the higher their percentage chance of winning this game. The composition that White picked here was actually incredibly high risk. They picked a weak Twitch lane, they picked 2 solo laners that rely on Tear of the Goddess. So the only thing they want to do in the early game is go even. The fact that they're actually up 300 to 400 gold with experience and level advantages in multiple lanes bodes incredibly well for them for the rest of this game.
Yeah, and you see the way they decide to handle this early game, because they know they have to get this rise out of his weaker mid-game, we can say, into the late game. What they just did right here was, as soon as Imp saw Dyrus use teleport in the top lane, he started recalling and went down bottom lane. And then Looper could just teleport top lane, pick up the entire wave, which was just pushed into the tower, because he still have the teleport left, and Dyrus is now forced to go back for even further behind in farm. So they're investing so much gold and experience into this rise pick here. Look how far ahead Looper is compared to Dyrus. That was such a good teleport.
1,200 gold in his pocket right now that he's just sitting on. It's 400 gold overall above Dyrus, but those items are completed for him, and Dyrus is still trying to stack rings to stay alive in that lane, so he's not towards his items at all.
What White has done so far is definitely very impressive, and you can see now that the lanes have swapped back, they're kind of through their period of total weakness. The only vulnerability that White has right now would be the fact that Wild Turtle did farm up that BF sword against just the Cutlass of Imp, but combined with all the other edges, it's really just been quite a great first 9 minutes for White here in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, but TSM right now, you just talked about how AD carry items is a difference. They should be able to pressure this bottom lane now. Punish him for the fact that Samsung White decided to swap to standard lanes to give Looper time up in his top lane to be one-on-one as well. They need to put pressure on this bottom lane here and shut down Imp while Wild Turtle is a lot stronger at this point. You see the way Imp is playing as well. Go in, try and last it, back away. You cannot trade with Lucian at this point.
White playing it very smart right now with the slight lead that they have. Something that TSM can hold on to very well when they get it. But it does not come very easily for them, especially in that early game. See if Imp can get all this farm right in front of the turret as the rest of the team stays safe, stacking it up. We see that mid lane focus of Pawn versus Bjergsen. Pawn comes out, all the long swords to keep dishing out the damage, and Bjergsen's trying to match as he builds up his Brutalizer.
Mata just throwing back the Lantern here to make TSM think there's a jungler, so they back away here, give him a bit more time to farm, and playing a few mind games, because if he does that a few times and the jungler never shows up, the third or fourth time he's going to do it, suddenly the jungler is there.
And that's one thing that Samsung White does so well, is none of the lanes are telling, even if Dandy is around, there's always a chance that he is in that brush.
Yeah, and it's always a bad sign when Mata has the freedom to throw his shield back for nothing, because that means he's not getting harassed. And they're not actually needing that shield for fights. So TSM is still playing this laning phase, honestly a little bit scared. At this point in the game, they should be trying to find ways to take control of the Dragon area. However, they've waited 12 minutes, they allowed Imp to be in the top lane, and they never pressured an early Dragon, which is normally one of the rewards you get to reap early on in a laning phase.
Yeah, especially because, again, you have the pressure in the bottom lane. In mid lane, you have kill potential because Zed has Cutlass as his first item, so his all-in potential is great. Amazing could join in. As long as they know where Dandy is on the map, they could try and go for some ganks here, but he's just been sitting back and farming, like we often see on Kha'Zix, where Elise is stronger in the early game, and therefore TSM has just been playing it very safe.
And we just saw previously Pawn jumping onto Bjergsen, really punishing the use of his abilities to farm. Bjergsen just walked away from that instance, didn't get an auto attack in, didn't throw his blades out with a Q. He's timing his attacks well. The reason a Pawn is just a menace in that mid lane.
And that's one of the things about Jace in mid lane. You don't have to necessarily destroy your lane and kill people. You can get your tier early.
Tier stacking. That's all he's doing right now.
Stack up your tier slowly. Be ready for the first dragon fight instead. You don't need to bully your own lane. So they're just going fairly even in farm here, but this tier is going to stack up faster and faster, and suddenly Jace is going to become super strong, going in towards this mid game where we're going to get the poke wars.
And it's definitely going to go to mid game, maybe even late game, because the mobility hadn't really started yet. I mean, up until that last back a few seconds ago for TSM, no one on their entire team had boots. They weren't going to be moving around and trying to make plays, which plays right into the hands of Samsung White if they're just going to sit in lanes and allow these Tier of the Goddesses to stack up. Now, with that being said, it's because White is doing great things to eliminate TSM's options. The lane swap at the start, the Sightstone rush by Dandy to flood the map with wards is just making it so that TSM did walk somewhere, it would be spotted and actually be an inefficient move for TSM. But right now, everything is in the favor of Samsung White.
Looper realizing he has the upper hand in that consistently defensive lane in the top, and now he starts to go a little bit aggressive. Dyrus is definitely having some trouble. We saw his Lulu play at a 1-1-9, so he may be getting bullied. Oh, here comes the teleport from Looper. This is the action that the Samsung White can create. Looper comes down immediately when the team engages.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be wanting to go for Dragon right here, but this would be TSM's chance to collapse on a team. They haven't really scaled up yet. They're still sitting on those tiers. They get this Dragon, it's an even bigger win. They just get it.
Completely pre-planned.
No reaction at all.
Dyrus isn't pushing super hard. He isn't teleporting. TSM had to burn flashes away. They didn't necessarily have vision control, and they weren't willing to engage in a fight that quickly. So that's not good for TSM. That's great for Samsung White.
So what we just saw here as well from Looper was instant teleport down. As soon as there was any chance of any action, he's going to teleport down because he knows, even if he doesn't get a kill, he can go towards the Dragon here. There was no reaction from Dyrus at all. Had he teleported down instantly as well, TSM should have been able to contest this Dragon.
He may be known as a quiet guy, but actions speak louder than words in a lot of cases, and Looper makes that happen with the teleport. Been from one Worlds to another, and right now they're laying it down as one of the best here at Worlds, and a favorite. Pawn picking up blue buff, that is going to help him continuously harass. He's already on the Manumune in the mid lane.
Now there is a teleport advantage for TSM right now, because Dyrus still has his up, but there's no dragon to go for. So instead, he's going to have to try and go for a play down towards this bottom side of the map if they want to try and get an advantage from the teleport.
Teleport advantages actually have to be towards objectives. And at the moment, they can't really do things. Every lane is still posturing defensively for Samsung White. They try to do a bottom lane. Mata can Lantern Imp away. Maybe they try for a teleport play mid lane, but that would only come off of Samsung White aggression and be used as a counter-engage tactic. So at the moment, everything is being dictated by Samsung White. They have better vision control. They're actually invading into the pink wards, and 14 to 15 minutes into the game, probably for the next 10 minutes or so, is actually when TSM should be stronger. So at the moment, they're trading turrets. That's not the worst thing in the world. TSM, though, they have to do something.
Yes, and again, I know you obviously want to get a dragon from your teleport, but you can also send Dyrus down to a different lane and apply pressure and teleport top lane if he needs to defend it here. But while Turtle in his bottom lane, we talked about how Lucian was a lot stronger.
It's a good push for TSM.
At this point, he's really getting some pressure on this side and getting a tower.
Look at that CS advantage. 30 CS over the top of Imp. He will do his Infinity Edge rush as well. But at the moment, Imp has that Blade of the Ruin kick.
Yeah, so that's the trade Samsung White decided to do when they sent Looper top lane to get all this farm here. Fight in mid lane.
Amazing, getting hit up pretty hard. He does get hooked in, but the rest of the team is there. This could be Dandy going down. First blood going to Team SoloMid, but White has acted on this as well. A great flash over from Lustboy, but that could feed Dade, or Pawn rather, exactly what he wants. Bjergsen's gonna get knocked away. Oh, does he finalize the kill? The Ignite's there, the exhaust lasted so long. Mata with a godlike hook from over the wall to save Pawn's rear.
Right in the jungle right there, Pawn juked Bjergsen. It turned a 2-for-1 into, well, turned a 2-for-2 into a 2-for-1, and the one team fight the TSM blew their teleport advantage on falls in the favor of White.
Yeah, Lupa just joined the fight instantly himself. Even without the teleport there, he was down towards this bottom side, and then the exhaust from Jace was perfect onto Zed.
They'd already killed the top turret. There was no reason for him to go back top lane. Dyrus was freezing. It's not like he teleported from a point of pressure. But yeah, taking a look at this one.
So they jump in here on Dandy. They actually have a lot of members from TSM because they know they have to teleport, but they're not expecting Lupa to join in at this point. As soon as he comes in, it's actually 5 versus 5.
And here's the thing. This is actually exactly what Bjergsen wanted. He wanted to flank Pawn when he went for the fight. Obviously, the exhaust was super critical, but this play by Pawn right here, in the brush, I don't know where Bjergsen was going there. Just the wrong direction, trying to finish off Pawn. He had no vision in the brush. He just guessed the wrong side, I suppose.
Yeah, by that point as well, you can't really get out. I mean, either you try and go and trade 1-for-1.
Well, that's absolutely what he was trying to do.
Yeah. If you start running away here, they're going to catch you anyway and kill you.
Well, great plays all around. We see how fast Samsung White can collapse on Team SoloMid, trying to make plays in the jungle. Now that that side of the jungle is littered with wards, we'll see where the teams decide to go. Safety there for TSM. They may be able to get in. Amazing can try to hinder Dandy's jungle, who we actually haven't seen too much play from. We usually know him for counter-ganking, or counter-jungling rather, and trying to get in the other jungler's face.
But the idea from Team SoloMid, it wasn't bad, because they knew they had to teleport. They were expecting to be 5 versus 4. They had the wards in the jungle, so it was a good idea. But because Lupa had already recalled from top lane and he knew what's going to happen, they actually ended up also losing a bot tower for it.
So 17 minutes in, that about 1,000 gold lead still stands. It's been closed down a little bit. 2-1 in turrets.
Time for TSM to try and make a play. Looper is a pretty hard person to die.
Oh, this is not what can happen when you're going for these dives. Lustboy goes down.
And one step ahead is kind of the story of this game. Now Imp is also in assassination mode, so both sides of the map are winning for White.
Entire game long, Dyrus has basically been sitting in a lane trying to farm because he's been behind, but he's not been able to do anything. Imp has been able to bully him. Lupa in the top lane did the same. And up here in this top side, there's already wards placed by Samsung White. They saw it coming a mile away.
Oh, history's starting to repeat itself. White gets a bit of a lead, and they start to just continue rolling that on. Imp fearlessly going between that bottom lane, or actually going after Dyrus, I should say. The turret was already down, but those turrets being down as well, we hear White did not lose a lot of turrets throughout the group stages. No. Now TSM's trying to get the better of that.
Yeah, with the lane swapping is the main reason that TSM was able to pick up those turrets, and honestly, at this point in the game, the gold is still somewhat close. However, the tiers are very close to being completed. The stacking is almost there for White, where it will become a level in which TSM cannot win a fight. At the moment, White is trying to poke them off the Dragon Pit. Imp, though, exposed himself because he has backup.
Oh, Bjergsen trying to get out of this one. The poison can take him down, but the Wild Growth is a save there. Retribution kill on each side. They get 1 and 1, and they're going to back off.
But count the ultimates right here. Amazing actually gets him pretty low. Here's the fight.
Amazing out of this one. He's already done what he can. He tries to get back in. A great monsoon from Lustboy. Dyrus is still alive. So many low health bars, and they're able to finish off Dandy there, as well as Amazing. The junglers are out. On to Lustboy as Mata locks in another one and brings the team over for another kill.
Yeah, so many ultis was used in the start of the fight, killing Imp in here. So once Samson White joined in, re-engaged against Team SoloMid, they were just a stronger team. They managed to get the picks here once again. We do have to highlight the fact that Imp is a player who will constantly play aggressive, and that was a good job by Bjergsen to actually try and punish him for overextending a little bit. Sadly for him, the team was ready to join in.
And Looper's going to be an unstoppable force pretty soon. 303 on Raz already. Take another look at this one. It is remarkable to me, actually, how despite TSM having the Janna, who is meant to split the enemy team up, TSM is the team that's always more split up, and White is always the team that seems to be together. Every time TSM thinks they have a kill, it's White that has the backup. Every time White thinks they have a kill, it's an isolated member of TSM that falls prey. Look at Amazing. Look at the rest of TSM. All of White are staying together. Lustboy, again, split up from the rest of the team. And Bjergsen all alone.
Fighting once again. He's almost forced to go in on this one,
juke.
dealing a bit of damage, and he does take that alt shadow back to the juke, keeping himself safe. White's moving down for Dragon now, and with that ult being down from Bjergsen, it's going to be a lot easier and a lot less pressure to go for this objective.
Yeah, this should be a very easy Dragon for Samson White. You have every single ulti ready on their side. Mats will get his very soon, and when you have no ulti in your Z, you don't really want to fight here. But with the combo Team SoloMid is using, what they can do is they can put Bjergsen in a side lane to split push, and then you have 4 members, Wild Turtle, Lustboy, Amazing, and Dyrus together to siege down towers here. Samson White won't allow it.
Now, I would agree under normal circumstances that, yeah, 21 minutes into the game is exactly when he wants Zed to split push, but Lupu will just kill him at this point if he tries to do that. It's the easiest answer possible because not only can Rise win the 1v1, he will also have a teleport threat if he goes to answer.
For sure, and that just shows how Samson White played the early game really well. They got the Rise hit. That was why they invested so much gold and time into Loop on this Rise, because he was going to be the guy stopping Bjergsen in the split push. But that was just very smart play from the start of the game. Sacrifice Imp a little bit, get your top lane ahead instead.
And an almost dark, completely dark top side of the map where Bjergsen goes to farm. He definitely would have met up with Pawn. That featured matchup, not going too bad for those two, a 2-0-3 to a 1-1-0, but they farmed it out quite well in the mid lane. It's when Pawn, now the game opens up, that he really starts to exceed.
And once we get a last whisper on Bjergsen, he might actually be able to, he should actually be able to kill Looper one-on-one, and then we can see the remaining members siege down, because when you have a Lucian, you have to make plays in the mid game, you have to be aggressive, you have to force fights on turrets, fast push them down, you have to Janna with the shield, and you have disengage on both Lulu and Janna, of course.
Still the 3,000 gold lead. Obviously TSM needs to try and make a lot of plays, but it's not their style to play risky when behind. Actually, when we were looking at the OGN regular season, which is group stage, combined with their playoff stage, and then all the LCS regular season, as well as playoffs for North America, when Samsung White wins, we mentioned earlier that they actually have the biggest kill discrepancy in victories, meaning they're incredibly good at just crushing an opponent once they get an edge. 14.5 more kills than opponents in victories. If you look at TSM, they had the fewest death discrepancies and losses. They only lose by 6.3 kills every time they lose. So like when they're behind, they kind of prefer to get bled out than to try and make a really daring play to try and come back, which means that even though we said this was like a risky strategy for White to pick these late game scaling champions, it's kind of an inevitability if they're able to get slightly ahead of TSM that it will drag late and White would win by default.
A lot of pressure on the turret is drawing out these ultimates. We just saw it happen with Bjergsen. Turtle gets caught way too close to this one. Wild Growth comes out again, and 2 ults to not even save the turret goes down. White, again, going to run amok in the jungle and get what they want out of this.
Yeah, Samson White didn't actually want to overextend here and just pile every single member onto Wild Turtle. Imp, he's looking for Bjergsen.
This could be the lockdown. Mata tried for the flay back. That gave me enough time for Bjergsen to use his shadow to get out safely, but they have exactly what they need set up before they even get there. The top wave is where they wanted it. They're going to be able to go after the top turret as well.
And even before they started the siege in mid lane, they walked into the jungle of TSM, placed a lot of deep wards, knowing once we take mid tower, we're going to rotate top lane. We have already slow pushed the wave, and we just walk straight up there. We spot them in the jungle, we get them low, we force flashes. Amazing, he's dead.
You cannot be too close to Mata's hook. It is heat-seeking right now. 7-3, only 24 minutes in, and I guess it doesn't matter what team they're playing against. They will start to bring out the coffins and lock those up. Nailing another one there on Amazing, and they back off with another turret.
That play in particular was amazing, just taking a sloppy route through the jungle, and TSM cannot be sloppy against a team of Samsung White's caliber. He had to jump away from the Twitch, which just made him a sitting duck for Mata's death sentence.
And just look at the minimap. I mean, all the wards from Samsung White, because they're making plays on the top side of the map, they focus all the wards there. And then they go back, find new pink wards, and you can start moving them around the map. Dragon is spawning in 1 minute 45 seconds. Okay, do we want to pick it up? We start setting up wards around this dragon now. We are ready in time. We're ready way earlier than Team SoloMid. And once they come in to try and face check us, we have so much single target CC and burst. We just lock them down, pick up another kill, take the dragon.
With those wards, they're getting everything they want, really being the only one to destroy their own pink wards because they have the ability to place them farther in TSM's jungle once again. 25 on this one, 1 minute and 20 on the dragon. See how if TSM can get the pressure onto this. Great item spikes across the board, obviously at 25 minutes in, but can they be used? Static shift just coming out for Turtle. Far behind a finished Ghost Blade on him. And he is looking, actually they're pretty even in gold right now, so could be a good fight, at least for the AD carries. It's all about Looper and Dyrus to get the teleport right on this one.
And all of these wards towards this bottom side so early. I mean, the dragon is still not up yet. 55 seconds. It's fun when you talk to the teams who play these Korean teams like Samsung White. They always say, okay, we walk down 1 minute before dragon to place wards. Never mind, they already got full control. You try 1 minute 30 seconds, they're already there. They're already there. They're always faster than the other team.
Dyrus gets hooked that time. Wild Growth again used in defense. It's not been in aggression yet, along with the team are Amazing jumping in. Bjergsen is split pushing top, but he may be needed in this bot lane.
And that right there is an example of White being one step ahead again. You think that you need to ward the blue buff first before you move into the dragon. Wrong. You need to ward outside your base here against White. And now we're doing a split push war, but the inhibitor from TSM, it's going down.
It's going down, but they know they can't stop this push anyway here, so they just want to get some gold.
We're going to see Bjergsen still doing what he can. This is an inhibitor down. They have a great wave. They know they cannot fight this. Dyrus does not have that ulti. He just used it. He goes down. Is this really happening? 26 minutes in. He catches on to Amazing as well. Samsung White getting everything they want here inside TSM space, and a Nexus turret is going to go down. 26-30 in. They are not stopping.
It's a late game comp, but if they win this early, it's even better.
What an amazing use of the late game comp. Every hook, like I said, heat-seeking coming out of Mata. What can they ban? What can they do? TSM has to think about game 2 already. 27 minutes in, the double kill for him. 12-3, and game 1 is over in favor of Samsung White.
And wow.